See how simple it is. The moment you close your eyes, you're already, right? You're no longer aware of the world and you're not no longer seeing the world, but perhaps you're seeing the world as just an idea, an image, a memory. The moment you close your eyes, you're already aware of some sort of chattering going on, some sort of judgment, interpretation, some sort of seeking, desiring, or fearing. Rather than thinking it, see if you can look at the thinking happening. You may say, the moment I really start to see, the moment I become aware that thinking is happening, thinking is no longer there. There you go. Rest as that unconditioned self, unconditioned seeing. Because it is that same seeing which takes on the filters of all of these ideas. It's a contraction. It's a contracted seeing. It is a filtered seeing. It is the conditioned self. The moment you become aware of the thinking happening, there may be just a lapse in thinking. It is that same self relieved of conditions, free of ideas, free of concepts. So rest as that. Be aware that I am aware. That is a thoughtless seeing. It doesn't rest on any idea. In that moment of being aware, even your belief of being a person is not there until again, mind goes outward and you begin to again just adopt that. But in the moment of being aware, that lapse of objective focus, you are that unconditioned self. You can look at this quote unquote space as the cleansing, purification of even the conditions. Trust this over your little thoughts. Be interested in this itself over the very seductive stimulation of mind and world. That is the hypnosis, It is because the mind is so seductive and so interesting, so diversely beautiful in appearance. That's the hypnosis. Whereas being aware of being aware, there's nothing to know. There's no object to know. There's not, there's no stimulation there. but see that there is a great restfulness, relief, ease, and unconditional peace, being at no distance from you, resting on no achievement or attainment, no requirements. The question, who am I, is pointing us to this space. The question, what is aware, is just pointing you back to the lapse of objective focus, quietude, silence, purity, clarity. Again, the chatter starts, right? And then something arises and it's like, oh, I want to be free of this chatter. But there's nothing for you there in that thought of wanting to be free of this chatter. It is also just more noise, more chatter. Again, just become aware that you are already seeing the chatter. In that moment of acknowledgement, the chatter will dissolve. That is where you could perhaps be curious as to, right, there is knowledge. See how miraculous it is that you know, you are aware. We take this for granted, but see the miracle of knowing. All our life, we've only been stimulated and immersed, stimulated by and immersed in what we know. But knowing itself, we have always just taken for granted. But now you have you can see like being aware is a miracle on its own, perhaps the greatest of them. How did it come to be? What is aware? Live this curiosity, not through thought. There's nothing in thought that can help you with this. Because again, it will just be an appearance arising that you know. Don't know something. Just know. You'll read in many places and you'll hear many sages say that this knowledge, this sense of knowing, is the entry door into the realm of experience and is also the exit. It's also the rediscovering of the that which is beyond the realm of knowledge. So it is here we must abide. This silence has more to offer than anything perhaps we can think about or read or listen to. What we read and what we listen to is only powerful. It's only as powerful as as much as it is successful in pointing us to this, which is beyond words. Whatever we read and what we listen to, if it just points us to more reading and more listening, it only does a little bit of the job. But when we get to the end of that listening and the reading, its greatest success, the greatest success of language and words is to point you beyond language and words. Knowing itself is prior to, more natural than the belief that as this person or as this thing I am knowing. In any moment of entanglement in that which you know, whatever thought, whatever idea, this simple question, as what am I aware? Or what is aware? Who am I that is aware? It aims to just bring you back to just knowledge itself, just knowing itself. And you'll experience that in this ever growing silence, our belief systems cannot last. All the false identifications and beliefs are more and more seen, more and more revealed to be untrue and limited. And also there's a greater willingness to part ways with them. That is why we use the word cleansing, purification. It is the mind which is very dense and gross immersed in physical objectiveness and all that stuff. It is being it's a process of becoming the mind becoming more subtle and receptive to higher realms of understanding. A mind that is very dense in just worldly knowledge won't even be receptive to a pointer like this. It'll be beyond its grasp. And that is why also this is not the first spiritual teaching that comes into your life. It's almost like it sort of, and look at that intelligence that we call life. It sort of eases us into this unraveling. How much of in control were you of that process? It happened on its own. And it's that same intelligence also making us a part of discussions like this, which continue to just subtle, more, just make more subtle, more purified. So even for the rest of the call, see from here, see that this is not somewhere you have to usually get to through a process of questioning or whatever. If it seems like that, that's fine. But see that is this not from where you begin even experiencing? Is it not what makes experiencing even possible? So I'm gonna get to question and see if you can sort of, as we are doing the questioning process or whatever, or answering, if you can see all these perhaps interpretations just arising in mind and notice that you are seeing from that very same silence, from which you can totally discard the interpretations. Go ahead whenever you're ready.
Um, Sunny, you actually answered my question during this, my question that came up as we were doing this knowing that's innate to us, it's never leaves us, it's always there. A thought that came up was what happens in death, like when that what we know as knowing is not present. And so what you said was this knowing is even prior to having that thought that this body and mind is the one that's knowing.
Yeah. That inquiry also takes us deeper to contemplate what is beyond knowledge, What does not appear, so how could it disappear? Right? Is never born, so how could it die? Because right, that which does not appear in the realm of experience can be said to be never born in a way, Because that which is born, it is born as something. Right? Even the word existence it means to like stand apart as. So you could be this, but not that, right? That is what, it's funny because one time I discovered as I was, just in this whole sort of like practicing the teaching, I remember I came across the word definition, just the word definition. And in that moment, I had a realization of what definition really means. Obviously, I knew the word all my life, but it's like when I really discovered what definition means, it means like to define something, it can be this and not that. It can be this because it has some sort of quality for which it could be defined. Everything that exists is defined in that way. It has a definition, some sort of quality where we could say it is this and not that. It has this sort of quality and not that sort of quality. So that is the world. That is the world of what they call Maya, mind. Like um, appearances, where everything is this and not that. And so inquiry is pointing us to that which is beyond definition. Because to define something is also to limit it. If this is this, it cannot be this. In that way, it is its limitation. In the realm of experience, everything is like this. Not even just physical, what we call physical, which the more the more sort of that silence brews, you also dissolve the physicality of objects. Like, but that's a whole different conversation. But not even just physical objects, but even thought or emotion or sensations. They are this and not that. They can be defined with subtle qualities. So in the realm of knowledge, of experience, the only thing that does not have any objective quality is the very knowing itself. See if you can put any sort of objective quality to knowing, to awareness. It's very evident, it's here. because uh, because of it you know something. But knowing itself, right? That's why the we use the expression remain at the cusp of knowledge. Don't venture off into what you know, but just know. know it, just know, knowing itself. Because that doesn't have any shape or color or form or name or size or attribute. So,
But I feel like that knowing is limited to this body and mind,
yes,
which
yes.
that's a belief.
Well, that knowing you can say is interdependent on the body and mind. When the body and mind go, the knowing will go, but that which knows will not go. That which knows is beyond knowledge because knowing you know, but that which knows you do not know. But you're not separate from that which knows. It is you, right? Your presence is announced, but you do not know. You are, but you do not know what you are. So it is that the three qualities of everything in the realm of experience. It's the tamas, rajas, and sattva, right? It's the three qualities of inertia, movement, activity, right? And consciousness itself. So we can say in this inquiry, the consciousness uh, aspect of this is maturing. Previously, it was dormant. Now it is maturing. But all of these are dependent on each other. By this maturing, you are acknowledging that that which you are is prior to and beyond the realm of knowables. Because in inquiry, when you ask, as what am I aware? You don't come to anything. You can't come to anything that you can define yourself as. And this doesn't need to be accepted. This needs to be thoroughly investigated, thoroughly sat with for however long, right? Try to find something that I can define myself as. Anything that I come up with is known. It is not that which knows. My presence is the only thing in the realm of experience which does not have any objective quality, yet it is so evident here. But whose presence? What is present? That is the principle which you are waking up to as yourself, but not as a something, not as a you can never see that as a as I see this or as I see a thought, because it is that which is looking.
So are you saying knowing is different from that which knows?
Not different, because it is that same that which is beyond knowledge. It is the knowing itself, and that is the personality itself. But it is free from the condition of even being, beyond the condition of even knowing. Like purer than pure, um, limitless, you know? And again, you are seeing that I am not separate from that. I am discovering that as myself, you know? So this can be very like sat with. I always say like just sit with it. And in that silence, in that inquiry, try to find if you can define yourself as a something. Anything that you can come up with is some sort of personal quality or objective or something that is being seen, you know? So yes, knowing may be not dependent on the body and mind, but they're interdependent. Without knowing, there is no body and mind. But how can there, but without body and mind, what would you know? Like, what would you experience? You know, so all of this is interdependent, codependent. It is neither this or that. But through it, you're through the inquiry, you're discovering that which is beyond interdependence and conditions altogether. As yourself, not as something else.
Because I wouldn't exist if there's no knowing.
Well, knowing is existence. Like it's inseparable. That which is beyond knowledge, its nature is knowledge. Like like the example of fire and heat. You know, fire is by nature hot. So
So for now, just sit with the knowing, and then at that seat of knowing, uh, that which knows is being observed. And so just to sit with that for right now, or because I don't know where to proceed from there in
so
terms of self-inquiry.
remain at the cusp of knowledge. Know that you know, just know,
Mhm.
rather than knowing something. That is the so you see earlier we talked about how the mind, which is dense and gross and lost in just objects, it doesn't have the capacity to even because it needs to have operate on a much subtler realm to even understand a conversation like this or to be even open to listening to something like this. Just remain at the cusp of knowing, like right inquiry, being aware that you are aware. In that moment, you are not aware of something, of an object. You are not even a so and so being aware of something. It's just total lapse of this and that, subject object. So that itself is the purification and the subtleification of mind and its ability to comprehend. It's like the cleaning of the mirror, as you know Nisargadatta Maharaj says. So that is the development of that understanding and the mind's ability to yield to that. Otherwise, right, it's that same teaching where it's like, how can one sheath contain two swords? Right now, that understanding cannot reflect in mind because it is too full of its own like concepts. It's too its own arrogance, its own beliefs about myself and reality and whatnot. So yes, that's also why Ramana Maharshi, his main teaching was just go sit there in silence. Like people would even visit him and he wouldn't say a word, but just like sit in silence. So just sitting in silence and just letting that reveal itself. But there is also a certain appropriateness about pondering and contemplating these things. So let even yourself right, think about these things also. But ultimately, right, the main teaching is silence. But then there is a talking about it, thinking about it. But look at how even the right conversation, the right thinking, also just leads to is pointing to that. So again, words are only as successful as they point us to that which is beyond words.